Jazz is muted, so I'll introduce the show.
Awesome.
There you go, Jazz.
Typical. This is how this guy starts with this George Russell thing. Relax, it's practice. All right.
I could only see a link, by the way. Like it was like Facebook or something.
Yeah. Anyways, what's going on, fellas? How you guys doing? It's been a very eventful, very eventful day today.
Well, first of all, shout out to Jack Daniels. He is always, and not the alcohol. Our boy in the chat here is always with us. I can definitely say he's our number one fan there.
Definitely, man. Shout out to our boy.
He's achieving that status.
Manny, you posted it that we went live. Let's go ahead and do that too to make sure, because I know it's a late night, but
let me do that.
It's a late night. The heater playing. We got all the elements.
I have no control over the show tonight. It's all Vish.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I am producing, so when everything goes wrong, you'll be able to tell the difference generally. Manny is a pro, and I am not. So here we go.
That's all right, man. That's all right. Vish, I can only speak for us. Pretty exciting day, huh?
Yeah. It's been for me. It's been a couple of exciting days. Yeah. It is something.
It's been wild, man. It definitely has been wild. Obviously, myself in the stands, you in the paddock, covering it from your perspective, from my perspective, and then obviously you guys on TV as well. So we definitely want to kind of get everybody's take on what everybody is seeing, because I think everybody's perspective is different. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk a little bit about it. If you're going to make sure you guys check us out on Twitter. We haven't posted a lot of pictures because, quite frankly, I mean, it was just too hard to do all that during the whole time that we were there. So we'll make sure we'll post some more. We'll post some videos as well. I know we all got some really nice shots that we're able to share. It was hotter than freaking Hades out there. I will tell you that there was a moment where we almost passed out. To be honest, it was so damn hot. But it was an amazing experience. The crowd, the vibe, the energy from all these from all the cars just flying by us. It was unbelievable. But
exactly the opposite of what I saw. But
exactly. Well, true, exactly.
But Jat,
I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me.
Yeah, I saw everything else but that. But Jat, to answer your question, it was George Russell was fastest in FP2.
Yes, George Russell was. Well, I think Carlos Sainz was until he spun out again. And crashed.
Well, everyone spun out. He's just one of the unlucky ones ended up in a wall. The lucky ones kept going. I mean, that was really it. I don't think it was kind of
very true.
I don't know this when you say that a lot of them spun out, but I don't think a lot of them had the fastest lap and then had already gone around 9 times. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but as that's so much down to timing because the track is rubbering in, and the asphalt is curing still. So as they you're gonna see these times just keep dropping. So it's not. I don't think we have representative lap times yet.
So as I go pay for my food, Vish, why don't you give them kind of your experience just leading up to today, yesterday, and kind of what you saw from your side of things in the paddock area and the media area, and how you experienced that.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So, for those that aren't aware, I am covering kind of the race more formally as let me get Jazz backstage. There we go. I'm covering it formally as a journalist for 5 reasons. So I am kind of doing behind the scenes now. There a lot of stuff I've learned over the last couple of days in terms of what that looks like. There is kind of it's very much set up if you're a journalist to write about the race. So we basically they seat us in front of a bank of monitors where you got like telemetry and all this data, so you can put it in your articles. We don't actually see the cars. So that's on the other side. So essentially the way it's set up is you got your garages there. The back of the garage opens into the paddock, which we have access to all of that. The front is where the cars are and opens to the pit lane. We do not have access to that. So we don't see the cars, but we kind of see the back room staff and all of that. So it's just a completely different perspective. And I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're writing about the race, and I'm sure Jazz will attest to this. If you're actually out there watching the cars, you have no idea what's happening. Whereas where I'm sitting, I don't actually see the cars. I can hear them, though, because they're loud as shit. So you hear them going around, but I don't actually see them. But what I do see is we got the TV feed, we got other additional feeds, we got the official scoring happening, the sector times, all the track conditions are all kind of right in front of you. So you don't even have to look anything up. If you're like, I wonder what the track temperature is, you just look up and it tells you. So it makes it much easier to write about it. So that's kind of what I was experiencing today. I went to the press conference, which that was like a 2-hour block of time where they do each of the drivers in 5 groups. They bring them each in for half an hour and they just answer questions. So we did all that. The other thing that was kind of interesting, I guess this is pretty unique to Miami, talking to some of the people that have kind of covered some of these other races, is normally I guess they have separate facilities for the media and for the teams. We're actually sharing with them. Now, not in the same room as them, but it's in the same building, which is the stadium. But actually, another thing I learned is the stadium's actually a problem. It gets in the way of how they normally would set it up, because they normally use the area inside the track to do logistics stuff. If I need to get to corner 10, I just go straight to it. They can't do that. The stadium's in the way. So actually having to use the track to kind of get around. So you have to do everything in between sessions. But we're actually sharing a lot of the facilities with them. So for example, we use the escalator. The teams use the elevator. So that was what they agreed to. So yeah, you'll walk outside and the drivers just walk right past you. All the media people you see on TV, you see all of them. That's pretty cool. But we're professional, so
we're professional, but it's inside.
We are
yeah. Inside, I'm fanboying. Outside, I'm keeping it professional.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, Vish. I mean, I know that you have loved this sport longer than probably any of us. Like, for you to be where all these people are, and to see these people that you've been watching on television for such a long time, and to hear the sounds of the cars right there. I mean, it's just like inside you're like, holy shit, but outside you're like, gotta keep it professional.
Well, I wrote I think 6 or 7 things already this week. Like, I am working myself to be honest. I haven't worked this hard at it. I'm used to writing about the Canes. There's one game, you write one thing about it, you're done. This is like a series of micro events. So it's like, okay, free practice, you should write something about that. Oh, the next practice, there's a press conference. So it's almost like writing a gamer 4 or 5 times a day instead of once. So it is quite a bit more exhausting than I think I realized with going into it, in terms of just the amount of content that you're writing, if you're going to cover it correctly. So,
Vish, did you answer Vane Hype's question there, the track temp?
Yeah, track temp.
It was
like 125, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it peaked around almost at 130 on the track temp. It was way up there. It was they put the stuff in Celsius, so I had to do some conversions.
Yeah, it was hard for me to try to compute on the television. It was 33 degrees. I'm like, what the hell is 33 degrees Celsius?
It was 50 something. Hold on, I actually wrote it down. 125. Yeah, you're
125.
Right,
You texted me earlier.
Yeah.
I felt like it was 125 in the stands, for the love of God.
Yeah, it was a scorcher. Now, I mentioned I don't get to see the cars really because they're on the other side. What I am sitting in is in an air-conditioned facilities.
So, I mean that's pretty nice.
Yeah, so there's trade-offs here, and like I said, I'm standing right next to the drivers and stuff at times, and that's pretty cool.
So out of the whole press conference, which driver intrigued you the most?
So I actually wrote about them. So Hamilton and Vettel are so different from everyone else in terms of how serious they are. Everyone else is goofing off. And Vettel, you know where Vettel was yesterday when the other ones were partying? He went to Carroll City Middle School and met with a bunch of inner city kids. Very cool. So he and Hamilton are very much about we're gonna give back to the community. I don't know exactly which school Hamilton went to a school to and taught to the kids about making sure they enroll in STEM, because engineering is what drives Formula One. It's not the driver. And Vettel met with a bunch of climate scientists as well, and he was talking about Miami's at threat for climate change. We need to be serious about it.
I saw his post on Twitter about that.
Yeah, so like he and Hamilton are very, very serious, and everyone else is like goofing off. And it's so different. And they're obviously also older too. But even Alonso, who's obviously older as well, is telling jokes and stuff. But those two, like, it stands out at how, like, they're like, I have this platform. There's things I want to talk about. Because actually, Vettel, unprovoked, someone asked him a question, because there's not a race in Germany this year. And they asked him, you know, what happened to the you know, like, how hard is it for you to not have that home Grand Prix? And he talked about, he said, yeah, you know, like, a lot of people are struggling financially, a lot of countries are, and the amount of money you have to spend as a host country to bring a race there, like, they don't want to invest that kind of money in bringing a race there. And then, like, unprovoked, he said, and, you know, even, you know, we might lose Belgium next, but, you know, last year what they did when they didn't refund the fans' money after that race basically didn't happen, it was messed up, and he just started talking about that, and I'm like, this guy is way... He and Hamilton, I mean, I wrote about this again. I wrote a bunch of stuff. Just click on the site, and there's like a million things out there. But
and by the way, if you don't think he has a sense of humor, he did wear his underwears over his tracksuit,
right,
to kind of protest as well.
Yeah, and Hamilton did something too, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But so one of the interesting things, though,
are you going to talk about the 3 watches?
Well, it wasn't just the 3 watches. It was this man. I don't know how he was standing upright because he had so much jewelry on. And he always wears a lot of jewelry. But at one point in his press conference, he said, like, I can't put any more jewelry on. And I looked at him and I was like, does he always, like, wear 50 chains around his neck? Like, what the hell's happening here? And then, like, I didn't know that he was doing it on purpose to protest the FIA trying to get him to take his piercings out. I found that out later.
So, Vish, real quick. So, Jack is asking if that was actually real. It's like, yeah, yeah. Freaking Jack, like, Vish is looking at him. Freaking Hamilton. While
you're talking about the underwear, I think, right? I didn't see Vettel in his overalls.
Yeah, the Vettel. Yeah, he was wearing his.
Was that actual underwear? Or was it a print?
It was underwear. It was
actual underwear. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that part. In the press conference they wear their normal, like, pit, almost like what the pit crew wears. So
yeah, right.
So then Vish, I remember seeing a report in the morning by the FIA talking about excessive jewelry being worn, and then obviously Hamilton shows up with all these.
Well, there's been and my God, the British press. Like, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So they do it in 5 groups of 4, and again, I wrote about this as well. So please check out the site. All this is written down. So they start by asking each driver 2 questions. One is something about either Miami or the United States. And the second is something about their season. Like, boy, you're doing good season, or boy, this isn't going well. And then it's open question time. And by far, the biggest star is Lewis Hamilton.
Oh,
because even with Max, even with Leclerc, the other 4 drivers, I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, go read the site because I wrote it down there. But the other 4 drivers are basically just sitting there, and everyone was having a one-on-one with Hamilton. But he must have gotten 4 questions about his piercings. People, he answered the first one, and then someone came back to it, and then I'm not making this up. At one point, someone said, "Not for Lewis, for the rest of you." Like, oh, fine, I'm gonna ask someone else a question. What do you think about this piercing thing? And so for those that aren't aware of the background on this, so piercings have been banned in Formula One for a long time. They never enforced it. There's a new president of F1 this year, and he's decided he wants to enforce it, and Lewis is basically telling him to go screw himself. And actually, Gasly had a really, even though it's kind of farcical, they asked the other drivers what they think of Lewis Hamilton's piercings and whether he should have to take them off. But Gasly had a pretty good answer on it too. He said, it's not like I don't wear like an earring and a nose ring that's like you look at me and see it immediately. He's like, I don't know where, I'm assuming it's like a chain or something. He's like, I wear a religious symbol on my chest, and to me, I know it might not be important to some people, it makes me more comfortable when I drive, and I'm not comfortable driving without it. Are they going to make me take it off too? And it's just Lewis is out front on that. There's probably a lot of drivers like, here's my good luck charm I'm wearing on my wrist, whatever it is that, and are they all going to take it off? So they were all kind of saying, you know what, we're the drivers, we assume the risk. And then the fourth time they asked Lewis about it, it was about, has he talked to the FIA? And he said, yeah, I told him I'll sign a waiver that if something happens to me, I get injured because of jewelry, they're not responsible. So I'll say the most important thing he said was it was silly, and it absolutely is. Like, honestly, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
But that he got asked a ton of questions on his jewelry, and I didn't realize that he was intentionally wearing all this jewelry as like a protest. I saw that after the fact that's why he was, because he does usually wear. He's obviously wears like several earrings and a nose ring, and he's usually wearing quite a bit of jewelry. I didn't realize he had like intentionally, I'm going to put on every piece of jewelry I own and show it to this press conference.
Yeah, I think though, I think for me personally, I'm just tired of seeing every single week or every single race week it's something else about jewelry. And it kind of feels like it's a shot at Hamilton every single time. So I'm just at this point, I'm like,
well, it's stupid. So I understand what they're asking about, but it's a fight the FIA and F1 chose to have with him for no reason.
Yeah.
And it creates that drama.
Well,
it creates the people still talking about it, and it creates socials. And the British tabloids are going to run away with it because that's what they wake up to, and that's what they want to write about.
It brings another like minor storyline to the whole GP.
No, without question.
And that was actually the point he made. It was actually the point he made because, like I said, he and Vettel both, like, they'll just start talking about, human rights just in the middle of the press conference because that's what they want to talk about. Like, I got this platform, so I'm going to use it for. And he said, like, this is silly. Why are we waste? There's so many more important things. He's like, we've made such progress in terms of F1, being visible in doing, speaking out on human rights and Black Lives Matters and all that. And he's like, and now we're spending time on this? And I think that's probably, like, this is just stupid.
Yeah.
Things. By the way, if you get, and he actually, you can tell, like, this has been going on behind the scenes, because he even says, like, they know it's titanium, so it's non-magnetic, so it won't harm, and it's just, like, he's had that level of conversation with F1 about, like, this jewelry, and I guess the point, the last thing is, like, on this, if it got to the point where he was injured on his nose or on his ears, I don't think jewelry is what we're worried about at that point. That means something failed on his helmet.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy that that's what they're focused on. There's a whole ass helmet in the way there. Like, if something gets through his helmet...
With a thick padding from the forehead all over.
So if something penetrates to the helmet and impacts where his jewelry is, that, frankly, not to be morbid, the jewelry's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, okay.
Like, at that point, so to me, they're just, it does not matter.
All right, enough of me asking you about press conferences.
Yeah, well, enough of the jewelry, too. Enough of the jewelry as well.
Sorry if I actually bored our audience of 18 minutes, I'm thinking.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Let's get right into it, man. There's so much stuff to actually talk about. I guess we'll go first, if you don't mind. Let's go right at the reigning champion. He ran a couple laps and all of a sudden had cooling issues, right? In the first practice.
Well, let's first talk about just the experience as a whole, okay? Because I think that obviously the fans that aren't at the stadium, or at the campus really, because it's the whole entire. They used everything, and although Vish can probably allude to this, that they probably can do a better job when it comes to logistics and how things are set up. I think that. Overall, they use a lot of the whole entire campus, right? Whatever it is. So they had the East, West, North, South campus, or something along those lines. We were closest. We walked in closest to the practice facility, so which is considered the West campus, and that's where turn 17 all the way 18, 19, and then into the start finish. That's where our seats were in the grandstand on turn 18. So right there is where you have that turn 17, where it's just right off the straightaway, guys hitting 200 miles an hour, and then putting on the brakes and making that sharp turn, and there's no apex. So it's like if you don't make that turn the right way, you're going right into the wall. So or you're spinning out and hitting the bumpers behind it. So first thing you notice is that, right? You notice that right off the bat, because the minute that they started practice, first of all, the atmosphere, all the fans just cheering the minute that they took off and they left the pit lane and they started their practice. it just felt so. That's a perfect Alex. Exactly, it's felt surreal. And I don't know if you were there, Alex. If you were there, we'll definitely have to link up tomorrow. But it just feels so incredible to hear these guys just fly by you, and it's the noise and the engines just roaring back past you. It's really impressive. It really is. And right off the bat, once a Red Bull came by, you hear all the Red Bull fans cheering. And when Mercedes came by and Lewis Hamilton came by, I mean, obviously the crowd went nuts when Leclerc and Sainz, Ferrari. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. So the good news is, it's funny though, like you can see this race from so many different angles and so many different areas. Even if you're not in the grandstands, if you're just walking around, there's little pockets that have just fencing and I guess, and you're right there. You're right on top of the race, so you can see all the cars. Like you're probably a few meters from the actual track itself, from the actual asphalt. So it's really incredible from that perspective. And then of course you get into, okay, well, who looks better? Because this is what I had to notice, right? Like who looks better on turn 17 and coming into 18 and 19, who looks like, they're able to put on their brakes and use their brakes properly. And they're not putting too much, wear and tear on, I guess essentially would be the left front tire is probably the one, because they're making, so you start to notice those little nuances that maybe the average fan wouldn't, right? So while I'm cheering on and I'm getting excited, I'm also like, let's see how Alonso does here. Let's see. Oh, he's slowing down too much, and then you're like, oh, okay, all right, he's taking this lap off. He's just testing everything. So it's like those. I mean, it was fun from that. You still have a screen, right? You have the board in front of you as well. You just can't hear anything, and it's so small that you can't even see the numbers too well unless you like really, really look hard. So that really didn't help much. But the crowd was electric. The cars were just unbelievable. And then I think the cooling issue came from tire debris sticking to the radiator on the right side from when he skinned the wall. Who's he talking about?
Max.
Oh,
yeah.
Max. Lex Boogie. What is this? This is an F1 show, dear.
Yeah, but
That's what it is.
The heat's on the other stream.
Yeah, the heat's on the other stream. So
you can cry your sorrows.
Yeah, they lost.
They lost by 20. So if you don't want to feel sad, come over here and check us out and learn a little bit about racing. So
Kane's baseball is up big, so you got that.
Oh, there you go.
North Dakota State.
Yeah.
No, get out of here.
Anyway, so getting back to it, yeah, just
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there a rule or an agreement somewhere that Horner has to make an appearance every single damn time? It's like these guys go straight to him every single
Well,
B2 qualify. Hey, Christian,
okay.
how you doing? What's up with you and your?
He's an attention seeker.
Well, it's a couple of things though, right? He agrees to do it, which most of the big teams will not. Their team boss won't do it. So you're relegated to lower down the grid. So if you can get the Red Bull team boss on your broadcast, you're gonna do it. Because Toto's not gonna do that,
right?
Dominicali's not gonna do that, right? But Horner will. So that's why, right?
Binotto's not gonna do that either.
Binotto, not Dominicali. Sorry. I went back in time a little bit there.
Yeah,
it's been a long day. But yeah, so this is what happens. And if they did do it, Toto would probably do it with German media. Binotto would do it with Italian media. So this is who they can get. He's probably the most prominent British team boss. So our coverage is the British coverage. We don't have American coverage. Otherwise, Zach Brown would be all over the damn thing, right? So it's just. I think that plays into it a lot. The other thing, another shameless plug, going back to Alex's comment earlier, I did write on how ridiculous the stadium transformation is from being Pro Player Park with the orange seats and the infield dirt on it to what is sitting there right now, which is an F1 track around a stadium that's basically a palace where they play the Super Bowl. They host a tennis tournament there as well now, which is outside the four majors is the next biggest tennis tournament.
It's
unbelievable. And they're going to host World Cup matches there.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
It really is. It's something that you don't realize the size and and how impressive it is until you're there.
Well,
And
Jazz, I'd like to get like that. That is a stadium you and I go to a lot of Saturdays in the fall. How bizarre is it to pull up there and it be an F1 track?
it was so weird because I love that I love that you bring that up, because at one point we're all like, we got to go to the bathroom. Where the hell is the best bathroom here? And we're like, over there, the stadium. That's where we're going. So like we walk to the stadium, we walk in, and of course I'm used to, like, I walk in and I see media entrance right in the bottom, and I'm like, this is where I walk in. I'm not walking in through there now. Like, this is so weird.
What, you don't say hi? What's happening?
I know. I should have. Right? I was like, wait a second. I can't.
Wait, you can get to the media entrance from where you are?
Yeah, from media entrance for football. I don't know if it's the same.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
Or media entrance for football.
I'm still trying to figure out how I get around the stadium to where there's actual other people.
Yeah,
but I don't think I can. I don't think I can.
It was weird, but it definitely was weird. And then you walk in, and they still have the tennis courts set up in the middle, and
yeah, the tennis courts in the middle of the stadium still.
Yeah,
so it looked amazing watching it on television. I will say that. But the part that kept intriguing me was whenever I would see the turnpike and the overhead.
Well,
I'm like, geez,
this is the insane thing, right? So
I kind of like that. It kind of gives it that. It kind of gives it that
happening, right? Like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit as a Miamian, because when we on Thursday they took us in like in a van around the track and let's get out at a few spots, and you do lose yourself in it because you're like winding through the corners. And it's all like, and it's all like you feel like F1 track. Then you turn one corner, you see the sign like I-95 that way, Turnpike that way. It's like, okay, I'm in the Hard Rock parking lot. All right, I know where I am now.
It's what makes it feel. It's what makes it feel though, like. Just like, I don't know, like regular, like normal. It doesn't make it feel at that point, right? Like where you're by the turnpike, you're like, okay, this is like, it's kind of back to reality. It's not like not like turn 18 or somewhere else where you've got the McLaren house, which by the way looks amazing, or you've got the Ferrari house, right? And all these people spending mega bucks there. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and I experienced something similar, Jazz, just in terms of so like. There's the press areas inside the stadium, and then like but the press conference you have to like kind of go downstairs. That's where you can like run into the drivers and stuff. You walk through the paddock and you're winding through and following all the signs. And I just look up and I realize, oh, that's the escalator to my seats when I go to a Miami Hurricanes game. It's just like it takes you out of the moment. Alex has a question, so I'll answer for me and Jazz. You might have a different answer because I think we're in. Is this not showing up?
You posted it, but it went out.
Yeah, okay, there it is. All right. So I think we have completely different access to different parts of the track. So at least for me, we can't walk to anything. And they're actually the photographers. So there's kind of two media. There's journalists, which is like myself, who are writing things, and then there's the professional photographers, the guys you see on the side of the road, the bibs and stuff that are taking photos. So they're the ones who get positioned around the track. And normally, it's exactly what you said, Alex, where the infield is empty or open, and they can just walk to whatever corner they want to photograph, and then, okay, I did this one, let me go to the other one. You can't do that here because the stadium's in the way. Right. So they were scheduling pickup and drop off. Like, you got to pick your corner 30 minutes before the session opens. We're going to drop people off, and then when it's over, we'll come by in the van and pick you up. So at least from a media standpoint, there's like no, and I think that's why, Jazz, I can't like run into you and stuff because I think
from
it's
a
kind of
fan's
just
point, it's kind of tricky because there's some points where you can walk around the track and you can, like I said, there's little pockets where you can kind of get really close and you're like maybe a few meters from the actual track itself. So you feel the heat, you feel the cars flying by you, the vibration, you can feel that. But you can't really get on the track. And then, of course, there's other places where you can't go any further. You got to get on a bridge and climb across. And once you get across, then you can make a left and keep going. So it's a little tricky. And I think that Formula One and the stadium and the campus are going to have to figure that out for next year and maybe kind of try to figure something else out.
If there was one
it's a lot of climbing up and down, a lot of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I have none of that, and I'm in an air conditioned whatever, and escalators and stuff. But I will say, if there's one thing, I feel like we're using a very small, like we're using part of the stadium that kind of faces. I think it's normally it's that glass facade that's like the media room. So they're using that, and then like underneath, like in kind of the where normally like they have like like to go out onto the field. They have like a room set up for press conferences, and that's about it.
Right.
There's a whole. I feel like they could use the stadium more.
Well, I will tell you this. Okay, I will tell you this from a fan's perspective. The energy is there. The activations and the entertainment are great. They're spot on. I mean, some of the areas you're like, well, you could have used real sand here instead of carpet, right? Like whatever.
I know why they did that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's reasons for it, but however,
I mean, that one's a simple one. If dirt blows on the track, it ruins the race.
So. That makes sense. That makes sense. On the other hand, though, like the vibe was great, all everywhere. Right there was a vibe. It had the champagne garden or whatever, and the vibe was great there. They had like local DJs doing their thing. It was very South Beachy, very Miami vibes, and that's what you want. You want to emulate what's going on around the city, right, and bring it all into one spot. I think they did a great job of doing that. Everybody just was vibe. There wasn't any like stupid drunk people just wobbling around. I think everybody was having a good time, focused on the race. When the racing wasn't going on, they were having they were vibing, just like what we spoke about, on last week's show, on Wednesday's show, was. Everybody's so worried about everybody coming out and not watching the race because of all the things that are going on around it. The stands were packed for FP1. The stands were packed for FP2. So everybody is there to watch the races. Okay, and then after that, they go and they have a good time. But that's what it's all about. If you got this campus full of so many different things to do, you're absolutely going to want to do those things. And I think that they did a pretty good job of putting that all together. And tomorrow I think is going to be even crazier because you'll have more people there. There's a qualifying.
Yeah, and so the area I'm in, and actually to answer your question, Jack, not really. There's not a big enough gap to actually drive into the stadium. No. But I feel like they could have wrapped the track more around it instead of just brushing past it.
Right.
And use more of the interior luxury boxes and stuff in the stadium and kind of had that as hospitality and actually, made more money off of it, to be honest. I think the other thing that hurt a little bit is the tennis just wrapped up here. Like Jazz mentioned, you can see it. The center court's still in the middle of the stadium. Yeah. So there's limited what they can do there. The other thing is, so where I'm at, I'm in the paddock. And yeah, you can buy your way into that, so it's not like that restricted. There was a lot. It was me and the other media, and then a bunch of filthy rich people that have VIP access patches. God knows what they paid for that. So I think the people where Jazz is seeing are your race fans, and where I am, it's the celebrity chasers. So I saw a different experience, I think, than you did. You can't see the track from where I am, and they were hanging out there and waiting because. What you do see a lot of, you see the drivers, you see the team bosses, you see the crew. I have access to all of them, or visible access, but we're not allowed to, very restricted in how you do interviews and when you're allowed to talk to people. But, so, yeah, if you pay an arm and a leg, you can get that and basically miss a lot of the racing. Then they go into the hospitality for the team, and, it's air conditioned there, and they're watching it on a screen, right? So
exactly. So
that's a little bit, so Jazz is with the real fans that are, yeah, I agree, they're... F1's a natural fit for Miami with the diversity of the city, and I think you're kind of seeing that. And I will say, we did talk about things they could do better. On a scale of 100, this is like a 99.5.
I heard interviews. I heard interviews from fans, and they were from Nebraska, South Carolina. They're coming from everywhere. And that's fun to watch as well. I will say one thing. I know we want to get into the racing a little bit, practice, and I actually have to head on out of here, but. I will say this. I think practice was just overall was exciting to see. This is a new track, so everybody's going to have issues, I think, initially. And you saw that, right? We all saw everybody kind of spinning out or kind of losing a little bit of traction in their rear wheels, a lot in turn 17. But however, the pleasant surprise was obviously George Russell with tremendous pace, FP1 and FP2, right? And it just so happens that. The only thing I will say is I think that a lot of the red flags and the yellow flags kind of hurt the rest of the field, to kind of get going and put up some good numbers. And obviously there's some issues like Sainz put in 9 laps and then all of a sudden he craps the bed. So I think he's going to have to figure out some things. Obviously Max and the gearbox situation.
There's some kind of X on him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the reliability of that Red Bull, so he's going to have to kind of figure that out. But, Bottas, of course, had some issues, but I was pleasantly surprised with with George Russell. I think he did a great job. Leclerc looks like he still's got some really good pace as well. He looks really fast. Checo look really good as well. And so I think those top 2 or 3 guys. I think it's going to be interesting to see now what happens in qualifying tomorrow because, actually, FP3 is very important. If someone spins out and screws up, then there goes qualifying for them. So I think that they're going to have to, understand how their tire deck is affecting them in certain areas, and this is going to be a very interesting race because I think that when they boxing when they pit and all that stuff is going to be very important, whereas we haven't seen too much of that strategy play out with a lot of the pitting in certain situations, and there's a 40% chance, right? So I think there's a lot of things that are going to go into it, and we'll start seeing it a little more at FP3 tomorrow, and then qualifying is going to go up. So I'm just excited to see what happened. And yeah, shout out to George Russell for an amazing job in practice today, but he's gonna have to do it again in qualifying for sure.
I don't know if that was a shot at me or if that was a shot at George Russell.
It wasn't a shot at anybody, man.
I don't know. I'm just.
It is what it is. He's got
the way that you had delivered it. Listen, all I'll say about Merck is that this is probably the most positive result out of any practice or qualifiers all season long. That has to be very well noticed. But at the end of the day, we're talking about practice. So.
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to keep plugging my stuff, but I did write about that as well, and we don't, it's hard to tell if the pace is real. Jazz caused a lot of, talked about a lot of the issues that might be impacting it, but, for one day, after kind of a bad start to the year for a team that's used to being on top, they're on top, and that's got to feel great for the whole team.
That does. I gotta get going, fellas, but we'll definitely have some more content for you later tonight and tomorrow, so make sure you guys keep it locked. Thank you, guys.
What time is P3?
1 o'clock. FP3 is 1 o'clock, and then
130 degrees.
And then and then qualifying is at 4. So we'll see you guys then.
Hey, Manny and Nick, if you guys want to stick around,
sure.
takes on you can. All right, Jazz.
Later, Jazz.
Later.
Have a good night.
All right, because I did want to get you guys' takes since I wasn't able to really see cars, ironically. So the Paddock Club. They sold all of that seating that overhangs that's blocking our view. So I see the rich people watching the race. I see the grandstand opposite the start-finish straight, but you can't get an angle on the track. But that means I was actually able to watch it on a monitor, so I was able to follow, and I think the two of you were as well. So I'd like to get your take on kind of obviously. I think Jazz hit the nail on the head. The big story was George Russell's pace, and actually the Mercedes pace as a whole, because Hamilton was right behind him in fourth, I believe, in the second practice. So there's pace in that car that they did bring a new rear wing. So I'd like to get your guys' take on. And Hamilton in the press conference, when asked, said we brought a new rear wing, and they asked him bluntly, do you think you're caught up with the Red Bull and Ferrari? And he said no. So he said I don't think that's going to change right now. So do you? I'll throw it to Manny first as the Mercedes fan, but Nick, I'd like to get your take as well. Do you think that they've caught up?
I wouldn't say that they've caught up, but they're making progress, and I think that's really what we just been wanting to see. Imola personally was a huge letdown because still, even though George has been, he's been getting all the points here, we know that both cars are not even close to even being to its full potential. So at least when you create some type of diversity and you actually see improvement, especially like today on a new track. But man, I think Jazz, man, before he left, he actually made so many great points there. New track, everyone was spinning around, so many red flags, yellow flags. So it's like, what if it was a track that people already knew? What if, Merck did create these chances, but what if, this track was well known already and would have Max still have to have a new gearbox? Would have Carlos Sainz still flipped out after 9 laps but still had the quickest laps? I don't know. Those are things that now I'm kind of overthinking myself. But no, overall, this has to be a great night in a way where now they have something to work with. They go in tomorrow at P3 and for the qualifiers being a little bit more confident that whatever they did the last 2 weeks, it improved the vehicle. The corners look much better. the straightaways, there's still a lot of porpoising, but that's happening with everybody still, right? But the whole point is that this W13 has to have the capabilities of going quick on the straights, and that's the only issue that's been mind-boggling. I mean, the whole season. If they could get that fixed for both guys in a way that, no offense, that with the last race when Gasly wants to show his rear end to Lewis the whole half of the race without anything. So again, it's progress. It's baby steps. I'm not going to say they've caught up, Vish, but I think it's a great start. And let's see what happens tomorrow, right? Obviously, in qualifiers, we'll definitely know right away where these two cars are.
So just a quick response to that, then Nick, we'll go to you. So couple of things on that. A lot of the drivers talked about how Imola was basically impossible to overtake, and they were excited for kind of a long straight here where they thought they could do some overtaking. The second thing is, as you mentioned, Jazz hit on it. There's only one more practice. Like, if there's another stop-start session, if someone bins it, they don't really add the time back. So you could lose a majority of this practice as well, and then you just got to kind of guess at what the qualifying setup is. They're kind of out of time to figure the track out. So, I mean, to your point, if this was an existing track, they'd have more data. They'd kind of know what they're doing. They're guessing a little bit here. So that's an advantage for Mercedes if they're closer to hitting their mark. There's not going to be a lot of running time tomorrow before they're in qualifying. So that thing about maybe Mercedes maybe they're not faster, maybe they're just ahead in their program, that might hold on because the other teams might not catch that gap up. There's not that much time left, and then the amount of incidents we had today, like that were yellow, like you said, yellow and red flags that disrupt the session.
Yeah. And then we also know that we've been hearing all this stuff about the upgrades in Barcelona. So that's why for me, I'm like, if they tilted the wing, they fronted the first,
they have a new rear wing here. This is a new rear wing.
So they installed a new front rear wing here.
They
but I'm pretty sure this is not the only thing that they want to do. But again, this is still some progress overall. Where now they have the data, they have something to work with, and that's all I was looking for. No offense to McLaren. But, man, I think after watching the Papayas up there a little bit too much after consecutive races, man, it was getting to me. It's like there's no possible way we can't be behind them on consecutive damn races. I'm sorry. It's just gonna.
So when you said no offense to McLaren, you meant full offense to McLaren.
That's
what you're talking about. You're talking about one of the most successful.
What do you want me to say?
Wait, Nick. I am going to go to you, but now I got to say something. After you took a shot at.
Yeah, I know, right?
You are talking about one of the most successful Formula One motorsport empires in existence.
It's not about what you've done 30 years ago, right? It's about what have you done lately.
Yeah, when they developed a driver named Lewis Hamilton.
Oof. Oh well, hold on. I think I'm being called. I'll be back.
Anyway, but while Manny does whatever he's doing, Nick, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? You can talk about Mercedes or just your general thoughts on kind of practices.
By the way, Lando has the coolest helmet I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
cool.
I mean, Lando's helmet is just fantastic. So he's doing the show as far as like the helmet fashion of the Miami GP. But I'll kind of build off of what Manny said about Mercedes. I mean, by their standards, their performances this season have been like way below average, as far as what they are used to. And, just showing signs of improvement and flashes of how they can be the old Mercedes of last year and, the last 7-8 years of dominance. It builds some confidence going into FP3 and qualifying. And, even if it's a small bit of confidence, it's better than what they've had. So I think having George Russell finish in the top 3 in FP1 and then doing also really well in FP2 and Lewis Hamilton right behind him and, some of these other teams, like you said, they're playing the guessing game. They're trying to figure out all the turns and tidbits of the track. It's playing in their favor for right now. We'll obviously see at qualifying how it turns out, but for right now, they should feel confident heading into tomorrow.
So I guess again, I'll throw a question out to both of you. Was there any what was your biggest disappointment in terms of performance from teams?
I mean, can we just talk about Carlos Sainz?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up.
Okay.
I mean,
yes,
it's just it's getting to a point, guys, that it's the same book, it's the same movie, it's the same result. This driver here just doesn't seem to know when to just say, you know what, I've done 9 laps, I have the fastest, I don't need to keep pushing. Like, you know what I mean? Well, not saying I don't need to keep, but you got to be a little bit smarter on your approach towards, you know, going forward when that happens. And it happened in where else did it happen? It happened in Australia. It wasn't his fault because he got caught in the red flag where he probably could have pulled, right?
Right.
Imola, I think it was his fault, correct? That he crashed because he was trying to do, I don't know what exactly he was trying to do, but
it was a mixture of Ricardo and him.
No, it's the other way around. Imola, he was just Ricardo wiped him out. In whatever the hell the race was before
so I think Alex brings up a question.
Yeah, we're gonna go through some of these questions in a second. But I definitely.
So it has to be about Carlos Sainz. It can't.
Yeah. But Jack is right. In Imola, he got wiped out. There was nothing he could do there. I think Australia, the previous race, he dropped back and then they put him on the wrong tire.
Yeah.
He should not have been on the hards. He fell back and he tried to push before it was up to temperature and he binned it. So that was on him, and that's a mistake you don't expect him to make.
Right.
Imola, he was just. I mean, anyone in that position would have been out because
got
taken out. Got taken out today. I mean, we talked about this earlier. It was a situation where everyone was struggling with grip, everyone was going off, and the unlucky ones ended up in the wall.
Yeah.
And so I guess let's go ahead and go right to the question here, the burning question. Let's get both your takes on. Nick, we'll start with you. Burning question: and the he here is Carlos Sainz. Does he deserve that Ferrari seat?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think he has the talent, and he's shown that he can. Like when he actually finishes races, he can finish in the top 4 or in the podium seating. I know he's not like at the talent level of maybe Charles Leclerc, but he is still pretty right up there with like the top young drivers. So I definitely think he deserves it. I think he's had some bad luck to start out the year. So maybe some tides turn, or maybe he just builds more confidence in himself because things haven't just been going right for him. Then I think we'll be seeing a different Carlos Sainz. I think he is, like I said, very talented driver. I would say he deserves a seat.
Manny,
it's my turn. He does deserve the seat. I don't think there's anybody right now that has the, close enough talent to replace him, and I'm not going to give up on him. But right now, he's not doing his team any favors, and he's not helping out his teammate right now. Because right now, Charles Leclerc is out there basically with one man down, and basically it's been, him and the 2 guys at Red Bull, right? Like, at some point, you're going to need your teammate to be able to just, get laps in, don't crash, and back me up. And right. Carlos Sainz right now has not been able to do that in the last 3 races. He's basically been more harm than good. So I know Ferrari is not going to give up on him. He just signed a 2-year contract. I've always asked myself, is the pressure of him not being in Charles's seat getting to him? And I've asked myself this a couple of times. It's like, no, like I've watched him do interviews. I've seen him race since he was young. He's a huge Ralph fan, right? So he's always in that mixture of, patience is key. Your time will come. It doesn't help, though, when Charles Leclerc is finishing races. He's always getting the points, and he's winning them. That's not a recipe that if you're in Carlos Sainz's seat right now, you want to be failing. And he is really hurting Ferrari. And tomorrow, I hope that they can get that car going, because I don't know what was the damages done, but on the radio call that I was hearing on
I think it was a suspension. I think
suspension. I mean, okay. I mean, you think by 1 o'clock, because the team right now is probably wide awake doing this stuff. So
they're not allowed to. There's curfews.
There's curfews.
Not allowed to touch the car. Yep.
Well, hopefully. Let's see what and guess what? I'm gonna be with Jack. I'm gonna see what happens in the race. Hopefully, he can help Charles Leclerc. At least be more beneficial to himself, right? At least finish a race, because you haven't been able to do that lately. So.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to put my computer's running slow. Oh, I'm gonna put what Jack said up here because I totally agree with this. Let me answer the question this way. Does anyone want to guess who finished higher in the standings last year, Leclerc or Sainz? Because the answer is Sainz.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to know? Does anyone want to say who finished higher, him or Norris, the year before that? Because the answer is Sainz. What about the year before that? It was Sainz. This is going to be the first time in 4 years he's not going to beat his teammate, and his teammates have been Norris and Leclerc. Yep. Yes, he deserves that seat. He's had a bad string of luck the last couple of races. One was his fault, one wasn't. Today, I feel like Jack called this out earlier as well. Max's radiator issue was likely caused by his own brushing of the wall. So I think this track is tricky. They all talked about it. The asphalt, of some things you learned in a press conference I wasn't aware of. Apparently, it's not the same that they normally drive on. So they're like, when they did their track walks, they're like, this is different. Like the texture is completely different. They're all worried about where they'd be able to grip. Answer today was no. They were trying to figure it out, but so I think pretty much I can't think of a driver that was just perfectly clean that didn't have at least one off, and it was really about did I pay for it or not. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I feel like Australia was a bad day for him.
Yeah.
And he has to own that. That was someone with his experience that beat Leclerc last year, that beat Norris 2 years in a row before that. You would not expect to basically try to overtake in the first couple of laps and throw his whole race away. You expect him to be patient and understand he's got a faster car and methodically work his way through. Other than that, I really don't have an issue with anything he's done. I think because Leclerc has been so successful, it's getting blown out of proportion. But this is a man who has beat his teammates consistently.
There's a little bit more added pressure because of Leclerc having, being more successful during the first 6 races or 5 races.
Yeah, and it is gonna and unfortunately for Carlos at this point, he's gonna get relegated to second driver this year. He's not gonna make those points up, so that's his lot for this year. But does he need to be a Bottas? No, he's used to beating his teammate. He beat the same teammate last year.
Yeah, and then also Vish, like we've seen Ferrari's drivers, whether it's Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz right here in this instance, like they just decide to do things and they try to push the narrative, and sometimes pushing it can cost you, right? Like we saw it in Imola where they got greedy, and then on today again with Sainz, it's those small little things that catch up to you towards the end of the season that you scratch your head and you go, well, if I just didn't do this, but that's the way racing
is. And actually, Leclerc talked about that, and Leclerc is probably over the top in terms of blaming himself when things go wrong. So he certainly owned the mistake, but one thing he said today that really struck me was when he was talking about how he frankly screwed up Imola. He said one of the things you don't realize is we'll take 100 risks a race you don't realize we're taking, and you only notice the mistake. You don't realize that I cut this a little bit close to the curb because I was trying to get a tenth of a second and I pulled it off, and you don't see it.
Right.
And you're just like, that was a great lap. You don't realize these little risks we're taking the entire time, and then when we make a mistake, it's obvious. But he's like, it's our job not to make those mistakes, but everything we're doing is a risk, and we're making those calculations throughout the race, and you just only see the mistakes. You never talk about, oh, we took this risk and it came off well, because you don't even know what happened. So I think this is, it provides a different perspective in terms of how they approach it, and that's why I put a lot of that blame on Ferrari for even pulling him into the pit stop. So much stuff can go wrong in a pit stop. Remember last year in Monaco, Bottas' wheel wouldn't come off. There's just to try and get 2 points. If he could have caught Max for first, that's different. But he was talking about 2 points to get in front of Checo. That's the difference. That's not worth doing that for. So I think, but I think Jack again a great point here. One of the issues we're struggling with: what is the racing line? I don't know. No one does. And so they're kind of they're trying to figure it out, and that's why you're seeing cars going off left and right. And again, Sainz paid the price for that. Verstappen did as well. Where their cars broke. Others, did donuts on accident, but somehow didn't hit the wall and they kept going. It's just like, whoa, that was lucky. Just shredded some tires, but other than that, so I think they'll all have a lot more data, and I think we'll hopefully see a little bit cleaner tomorrow, especially as they adjust to the asphalt and it rubbers in a little bit, because they were all very concerned about the graining. The other question, real quick, to answer, Alex asked if we saw the boats. I did on the track tour. By the way, you're not supposed to call it a fake marina. It's called a dry dock. The press officer was very clear. It's a dry dock.
Dry dock with dry water.
They are real yachts. They brought them in from the actual marina in a Brickell, and they apparently were only allowed to move them. They gave them one window to do it, starting at midnight. So they started at 12:01, and they drove them out and got them loaded in there. But yeah, it's a dry dock. It is not a fake waterless marina. It's a dry dock. Yeah, no, I did see them when we did the track tour.
What time are you gonna go there tomorrow, Vish?
So the press center opens at 9, and I'll be there then. So the first press conference is at 10:30. With the team bosses, so I'll definitely be in there as well.
Steiner?
That'll be interesting.
They have not published the list yet. They just pay. This is much shorter for the driver stuff. You actually all the drivers have to do it, so they do 5 drivers at a time for 4 shots.
If you are able to ask Toto a question, can you ask this question for me? If you can.
It depends on what you're going to ask me to ask him.
What does he prefer, coffee or tea?
I'm not gonna. You want me to, in a press conference, say, "Hey, Vishnu Pursuram, 5 reasons for
Toto,
coffee or tea?"
Toto, have you ever tasted a Miami croqueta? That's what you gotta ask him. And just give it to him.
Bring a little Miami to it.
Hell yeah. No, he's not.
He's not gonna do it.
There is no way. I mean, you guys know I'm not gonna do that. Like, okay, all right. So, I think
Maria's to get some croquetas to bring to Steiner tomorrow.
I mean, on the shows like this and on the Six Ring Cane show, I goof off. When I write, I'm actually pretty serious about the way I write and what I write. So no, I'm not going to ask a goofball question in a press conference to Toto Wolff. Plus, he's Austrian. He won't have a sense of humor anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, so I don't know which it's. I don't think it's all of them, and I don't know who is there. For the drivers, you do get all of them. They do 30-minute chunks with 5 at a time, so they're all there.
Okay.
But for the T, I think it's just a handful of them. It's for an hour. But yeah, I'll be in there. Whatever happens, I'll be writing on it.
Will there be a press conference after the qualifiers?
Yes, there is, and this is where I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. There's the driver pen, where if you guys, when you're watching a Formula 1 race and someone crashes, and you see they're kind of doing an interview outside, like, that doesn't look like it's in a press room, that's the pen. Right. We can sit there and wait for someone to crash up and come do that interview. But then there is a formal kind of press conference for the top. After they do the interview on the podium with whoever's doing, I don't even know who's doing it this week, but the one they do outside in front of the fans and all that, they do go to the press room and do like a longer formal press conference. So I will probably, for qualifying being that, for the race, I'll figure out if I want to be in the driver pen, because the driver pen, they all come through after the race. Except for, I think, the top 3 go to the press conference at the same time. So I'm going to kind of figure out which one I want. I'll probably just go to the press conference.
I would go to a press conference.
But, yeah, but Lando's not going to be there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm being very professional. I can tell you that right now, because the McLaren garage is right across from the press entrance, and I have been very professional. But which, by the way, you kind of have to be. Well, I mean, you have to be. So the thing is, like, they tell us all the rules and regulations, but we're wearing media passes. Everyone knows your media. If you act anything unprofessional, it's gonna tar you.
Right.
So. And then there are actual fans there too, because again, if you pay like $1 million, they'll let you in the paddock with a paddock pass. Right. So like those are the ones that are like, oh, there's Lando. Oh, can I take a picture? Most of the drivers, they kind of leave alone a little bit. They'll just wave at them. But like the team bosses and stuff, like there are people taking. I took a photo of people taking photos with Zach Brown, but obviously I'm not going to do that as media. So there's kind of a little bit different there. Again, you don't really talk to them because there's designated times when media is allowed to talk to the people. If it's not one of those. You don't do it. So you're kind of just walking by all these famous people and other media members, like all the people we see on TV, like I've seen like Will Buxton, Karun Chandak. You see them actually doing their live spots, and you kind of make sure you don't accidentally walk in front of the camera too. When you watch the coverage, you'll see kind of they're just out in the paddock, so people like me are walking around there too. But you don't talk. Everyone's working, so it's kind of weird. It's not F1 fantasy cap. It's a job. So when you're there as media, you also have the same job. So you're kind of just like writing on it. But yeah, I think I'll probably do the press conferences. Anyway, last thing real quick. Good question from Alex, I think, to wrap this on. Let's get some quali predictions. We did our race predictions on the show on Wednesday, but frankly, I don't remember. Actually, I do remember one of them, and I will own this, because based on how today when I said Russell will not score any points in the race, and that's not looking like a great prediction right now. Manny, you're welcome. My prognosis skills have been on point this year. I have been missing every single one very badly, and I said Russell not in the points, and I think I might have just made him the fastest driver on the grid. So there you go. You're welcome, Manny. I gotta just pick McLaren to like finish it last, and then we'll maybe get up to the front. But anyway, what's everyone's? Let's start. Man, we'll go to you, go to Nick. I'll get mine, then we'll wrap it up here. What are your predictions for qualifying?
Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton.
Wow, you went head boy. You took one FP2.
The most positive practice all freaking year. I'm gonna stay positive. I'm diving all in, baby. All chips in. Let's go.
I mean, I love that it was one good practice, and
that's it. That's all.
Damn, you're right back into this is the W12. We have the best car.
Let's go.
Michael Massey's not here anymore to screw us. You went all the way in.
I'm gonna say for me, I'll say Leclerc, Max, and Russell, and then I'll say Hamilton finishes in top 5 as well.
All right, I will finish it off. I cannot put Russell in the top after I say he wouldn't finish in the points. So something's got to go wrong for him in qualify. I do think overall on pace, I thought the Ferraris were the most consistent. I'll go Leclerc 1. Max and Verstappen both had car issues today, which is not great going into a new track for qualifying.
New gearbox, and they still have hydraulic issues.
Yeah, they might even get penalized. So I'll go Leclerc, Perez, and I'll go Max.
Damn, man, you just couldn't say George, man.
I mean, if I was going to put a Mercedes driver in there, it would be Hamilton, to be honest. But I still don't think the car has the pace yet. It's getting closer.
Leclerc, wow, so Leclerc, Perez, and
Verstappen. Yeah.
Still Max, huh? Okay.
All right. I can go with that.
I mean, anything can happen because it's a new track. They don't know how to manage the tires yet, and it's going to be crazy. And there's a lot of intricate parts on the weird thing with the track is there's the long straights with the overtaking, and then there's those tight corners where it's so easy to wreck your race. And I feel like in qualifying and the race, we're going to see a lot of that happening.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, and
Vish, go and grab some sleep, man.
All right, before we do a couple of quick plugs, so tomorrow, actually, I don't think we'll be, or at least I won't be doing a show because I'm interviewing the head of Pirelli Motorsport tomorrow evening.
Yes.
So
we will not be doing a show tomorrow. We want to actually, though, guys, please, if you've not gone to our man's Twitter page at BRP2003, you need to read a couple of these articles, man, because he is speaking from the heart. He's speaking as a fan, and more importantly, he is giving you stuff that probably you've never actually listened or even heard in South Florida when it comes to Formula One. So you got to make sure you guys read his articles. Not to mention an interview tomorrow with, who is it again? The head of
it's Mario Isola, the head of motorsports for Pirelli. So
nobody does it like 5 reasons, baby.
Yeah, so that'll be a so yeah, I'm gonna do that. That's tomorrow evening. I'm pretty sure it's audio. We'll put it up on here.
Yeah, no. To answer Jack's question, that is true. I do actually like Vettel's helmet in a way more than.
So real quick on the basketball helmet, they did ask him why he chose that, and he said everyone else was going to do a palm tree. So there wasn't really much thought that went into.
Yeah, and then you had told me about the joke he did with George.
Yeah, he did. He did make fun of Russell, who was in the press conference group with him because they do 5 at a time. And he said maybe I should give it to George because he likes to bounce. and then Russell then Russell bounced his ass all the way to the top of FP2. So there you go. Karma came back at our boy Lando there. But anyway, yeah, we'll definitely keep Jazz and I will be on site.
Also follow our Twitter. Vish will be tweeting out stuff. Jazz will also be there as a fan. I'll be watching on TV. And Nick, I don't know what Nick will be doing in North Carolina. Probably eat some barbecue. I don't know.
I mean, I'll be watching the race too.
You're not going to go to the home of Haas and stalk outside there.
Probably not. No.
By the way, that was actually pretty cool of Haas that they invited the Watt brothers over and they actually changed freaking tires and stuff. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, this is all the stuff I don't see because I'm behind the wall. I did see it on the monitors. I saw like they were doing like celebrity pit stops. A couple of teams were doing that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, keep it locked on. Follow at F1_5 reasons. We're gonna keep pumping out content. This is our home race, and I think we're all very, very proud so far of what Miami has shown. So we definitely will keep pumping out content.
And if you don't like it, and if you're complaining still, you can just not watch.
Kick rocks.
Kick rocks.
Yeah, but as Manny said, I've written a ton of stuff. I'm gonna continue to do that, and I'm gonna probably aggregate it at the end of the week, so I'll just have it all like because there's a ton of stuff, and a lot of it's fallen off already. So the Heat played, so there we went to the back burner. But Sunday will be Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, it's getting for real now. Qualifying and then the race. So yeah, we'll definitely. I know our boys here are gonna do a post race show on Sunday as well. I think Jazz and I will probably have trouble getting in front of camera for that. But yes, for today, you know what? Let's end with George being held up as the fastest car today. And yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll be back throughout the weekend. You all have a great night as well.